Welcome to OOTO, the Out of the Office Investigation. All right, today we're headed to the East Cape of Baja California. We're looking at this really incredible place where you have this collision of high speed, modern sport, and, well, some seriously deep history. And it all boils down to this one huge question for the people who live there. How do you open your doors to the entire world, but still keep what makes you, you? Exactly, Alex. And that's what we're looking at today, the incredibly smart system they actually engineered to answer that question. But before we get to the system itself, you've got to understand the place. You have to grasp what this sanctuary is really worth. To really get a handle on what they built, you have to go way back. For centuries, this wasn't some hot tourist spot. It had a different name, Ensenada de Muertos, the Bay of the Dead. I mean, think about that. The history here is just layered. You've got the ancient Paracu culture, then devastating epidemics during the colonial era, and even a really tragic shipwreck back in 1902. The entire identity of this place is forged by survival. And then, the most incredible proof of that high-stakes life is literally written into their bones. I'm not kidding. Archaeologists found these skulls that had something called external auditory exostoses. It's this bony growth that forms in your ear canal. It isn't a disease or anything like that. It's a physical change, an adaptation that only happens when you spend a ton of time in cold, windy water. It's a biological signpost that tells us the ancient Paracu weren't just fishermen. They were truly elite, world-class divers. Right. So these weren't just people living by the sea. They were specialized ocean people, an entire lineage of master divers, and that deep, deep heritage of skill on the water. That's the cultural foundation for everything that comes next. And believe me, what came next was a very, very different kind of visitor. Yeah, talk about a change of pace. Into this ancient place, this new, high-speed force just explodes onto the scene. It really kicked off in the 80s when the killer winds of the East Cape started pulling in windsurfers. But it didn't stop there. Over the years, that morphed into big air kiteboarding, then crazy fast hydrofoil racing, and today, it's a major stop on the global wingfoil tour. This quiet bay became a global destination seemingly overnight. And look, all that attention brought money and opportunity, which is great. But right alongside it came something else, something a lot more dangerous. We're talking about predatory, unchecked real estate speculation. And that clash put the community at a crossroads. They had a massive choice to make. Yeah, it basically presented two completely different futures for the bay. Path 1, let the local community, with all its history and deep knowledge, lead the way. Path 2, let a top-down, corporate vision take over. This quote here really nails it. It was a head-on collision between slick real estate marketing and the actual on-the-ground reality. And that quote is the perfect description for the Bahía de los Sueños, the Bay of Dreams project. It was supposed to be this huge, high-end resort, but today, it's basically a ghost town. You've got shoddy infrastructure and just abandoned buildings. It stands there as this constant, looming reminder of that cut-and-run development model, the very thing the community knew they had to avoid. So what did they do? They decided to build their own system from the ground up. Right. And faced with all this pressure, the community didn't just put up protest signs. No, they engineered a solution. They created this amazing community stewardship charter, and it's all built on one core idea: co-responsibility. And Ben, this is so much more than some fuzzy buzzword about sharing. It's a real, formal system of governance that brings everyone to the table. The fishing co-ops, the sports associations, the local land authorities called ejidos, all united with one mission: protect the bay. And this charter was not just some feel-good mission statement. It was a nuts and bolts operational blueprint with safety rules that were mandatory, non-negotiable, for everyone. It really rests on 3 pillars. First, you have to log a float plan before you go out. Second, there's a 60-minute rule. If you don't check in within an hour of your expected return, a search protocol kicks in automatically. And third, strict rules about carrying radios or phones and wearing PFDs. It's serious business. The system also gets into ecological protection in a really smart way. It puts a hard cap on the human footprint in the water. That number you're looking at, 16, that's not just a random number they picked. It is the absolute data-backed limit on how many observation boats can be near the wildlife at any one time. The whole thing is designed to prioritize the quality of the interaction, not just cramming in as many tourists as possible. Exactly, Alex. So it's not just boat traffic management, right? It's fundamentally about defining the relationship between people and wildlife. It's about creating a true sanctuary, a place where orcas and humpbacks are actually shielded from all that boat noise, that acoustic smog, and the pressures of over-tourism. And to make that work, they had to build respect for the people running the system right into its DNA.
For a system like this to actually work, you have to honor everyone involved, and the charter just does this brilliantly. On one side, you have what they call the Wall of Honor. This recognizes the local families, people like the Luceros and the Giraldos. I mean, these are the true guardians of the bay. And then on the other side, there's a Hall of Fame for the international athletes, the pioneers and world champions like Johnny Heineken and Daniela Moroz, who really put these waters on the map. And by putting the names of those local families right up there next to the world champions, the community built this incredible culture of shared responsibility. That's the key, you know? The respect flows both ways. The visiting athletes totally respect the local authority, and in return, the community really honors the sporting heritage being built there. It's that synergy that creates such a powerful result.
So what's the secret sauce? What really makes this model tick? Well, it boils down to a few core things. First, real local sovereignty. The community has the actual legal power to make the rules. Second, a slow growth mindset. They actively rejected that quick buck, cut and run approach. Third, they took all that local knowledge, that deep maritime expertise, and wrote it into law. And maybe the most important takeaway of all, they proved that a healthy, thriving ecosystem can be way more profitable in the long run than some half-built ghost resort.
And that's the thing, Alex. This isn't just a story about one bay in Mexico. This could be a replicable blueprint for any community anywhere in the world that's struggling with that same tension between tourism and protecting a fragile place. And that really brings us to the big, forward-looking question here. So here's a final thought to leave you with. In this age of massive, globalized tourism, maybe the strongest, most resilient systems aren't the ones designed in a boardroom somewhere. Maybe they're the ones engineered from the ground up by the people who called that place home, the ones who have everything to lose.
You're listening to OOTO with research by El Campesino.